Thank you very much for your patience. We're very close to closing. I know that this is a long session, but we have two more very short interventions, which we'd like to do, and I'm going to really keep it short. The idea was to finish at 3, so we're still roughly on time. As I've mentioned, yeah, if you do need to leave, I mean, you can leave, but keep the discussion outside so those that stay can hear. The idea is to present, can we go to the next slide? Yeah. The idea is to present the Barcelona Declaration. As I said, today's National Symposium is the final phase of a multi-phase event organized with Knowledge Innovation Center in collaboration with other partners, including UOC. We've had 120 participants from all over Europe. We invited 25 experts in from North America, from Canada. Work together in a masterclass format. Some of the experts are here today. Mark Brown, for example, Anastasia was at the masterclass. Several others were at the masterclass. And one of the tracks of the masterclass was developing a declaration. So today, we're going to declare. Martina Darmanin, a colleague from Knowledge Innovation Center, has worked on this declaration track, and she's going to present very synthetically, very briefly, the work we've done, recommendations. So welcome, Martina. And then Jon Altuna will close the session after that.
Hello, everyone. I apologize that my slides are in English. I did not manage to translate them into Spanish. But basically, the picture that you see there was taken yesterday at the end of the masterclass. It's been 5 intense days, of which we have been preparing for quite a number of months. And I'm happy to share with you the declaration that came out of these 5 days. I'm working for the Knowledge and Innovation Center. I was a student representative before that. And so I'm also happy to see CREOP's student representative here. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a brief understanding of what you have been part of today, but what has been going on over the past week. We started off between Monday and Tuesday having micro-credential labs, where projects that are undergoing on micro-credentials have organized their project meetings over these 2 days, and simultaneously we had the European Digital Education Hub organizing workshops also over those 2 days. We've now got the declaration following the masterclass, where we've had about 26 speakers coming, not only from Europe, but also outside of Europe, and happily the national seminar that took place today. So actually, we've had more than 120 people. We've had close to 200 to 250 people coming about over this past week. We were a very small team of people that organized this. So I do really want to thank the people that have helped us in organizing it, Mitch from UOC, but the whole UOC team as well. Behind the scenes, the HBW in Germany, and all partners that have also sponsored actively the masterclass, the VMU University in Lithuania, Eden, AI Campus, and EU4Dual. So enough about what we were doing. Now, what is the product of what we were doing? If I can manage to go to the next. Super, thank you. The declaration, for who is it? It's for, you're going to see the recommendations towards providers, education, training, and learning providers, whether they are formal, non-formal, or informal. And you will see recommendations to policymakers. However, that does not restrict the work to be done by just these 2 target groups, not at all. Learner representatives and learners themselves, employers and accreditation authorities, QA agencies, they all have a very significant role to be playing. As Nico was mentioning, our student representative, how important collaboration is in this time and age. why we're facing disruptions in our learning, whether it's due to the climate crisis, whether it's due to increasing conflicts, whether it's due to the pandemic, or whether it's even due to technology. It's going at such a fast pace that the lives that I have is very different to the lives my parents had. It's very different to the lives that their own parents had. So it's important that our education systems are flexible and responsive to these disruptions. Thank you. So we have 4 themes about this declaration: strategic leadership, digital transformation and interoperability, recognition, and micro-credentials for lifelong learning and development. I'll start off with strategic leadership. I really try to highlight just the main points because I understand you've been seeing too many slides today. Towards our institutional leaders, it's important to have an internal discussion and an external one as to what you want to do with micro-credentialing. Speak to the staff, speak to the learners, speak to your external stakeholders, speak to the community. What do we want out of this? How are we going to find the funds? How are our operations, our governance is going to change about this? Having that sit-down discussion is something that Mark was also mentioning is important in terms of having everybody on the bus and knowing where they're going to be sitting. Cross-sector cooperation in the design and the improvement of micro-credentials with employers, with learners, with the private public sectors. Yes, non-stop collaboration is what we need, and to widen access to Europe's education systems and standards. Towards policymakers, we've already had a presentation of a previous speaker about the National Qualifications Framework and integrating micro-credentials into it to increase trust, to increase quality, and to increase, finally, the recognition ability of micro-credentials if I'm going to try to access further education or even employment. Everybody understands what a master's degree is. Everybody understands what a bachelor degree is. If I go with a micro-credential and it has no information on it, it has very low recognition value. Thank you. Digital transformation and interoperability. Basically, here it's important to have transparency. The EU Council recommendation that was presented to you earlier, it has an annex in it, and it gives recommendations how to package information. As I said, if I go with a micro-credential, it helps to say my learning outcomes, what I gained. It helps to say perhaps the credits, the workload that I did, how I was assessed. That's an important aspect to gain trust in its value. To award digital credentials using open standards, there are very common, there are these open source standards that we have listed in the presentation and in the declaration to support interoperability through the exchange of information via micro-credential platforms. Sometimes they operate too much in silos. They need to broaden their scope and allow us to share credentials across also job platforms too. Towards our policymakers, incentivize European micro-credential portals as well as open source digital trust technologies. On recognition, how are we going to build trust on recognition? I already mentioned the importance of stating learning outcomes, the importance of there being assessment. That is also one of the key aspects of the Council recommendation. Micro-credentials you need to be assessed in some way or another to gain trust. And ideally, where possible, to align them with qualification frameworks. Sharing data on quality. Too often, you just see an offer of learning opportunities, but you don't understand how this learning opportunity was quality assured. That's important information to gain trust in providers. You also need these procedures, the recognition and validation procedures, to be accessible for non-experts. If I go to a person on the street and I try to explain to them this, I'm not going to be talking like this. I need another way of trying to explain to non-experts what recognition and validation procedures are. And it's in their right to know these. And recognition procedures in line with international standards and regional conventions. We have mentioned the Lisbon Recognition Convention, the Global Recognition Convention. and embrace recognition procedures that enable learners to share credentials from digital wallets. This we have also mentioned in the digitalization section. Finally, micro-credentials for lifelong learning. It's very important that our policymakers start to fund open source and inclusive micro-credentials, and that we can look at micro-credentials in our policies as something that can increase the efficiency of public education systems. This, of course, ties in with strategic leadership and having a strategy, and one that is very sustainable, and to increase access for marginalized communities and non-conventional learners. Finally, towards education institutions, provide open source, support trials for unbundling, and finally, not in the least, but of course the most important, that's the reason why we are here, is to continue enabling learners' choice at the heart of micro-credential strategies, that hopefully we are one step closer to the public right to education for all. That is on the declaration. What to do next? These are in case that you want to keep following our work. The declaration is going to be uploaded onto that site. If you are interested in next year's summit and would like to attend, that site will be where we will be promoting the 2024 International Micro-Credentials Summit, and also join the European Digital Education Hub community. Anyone can join. I've put the link there. That is also a community of experts on digital transformation. It's a great way to share the practices you're also doing. Finally, thank you for your attention. I hope I didn't go too much over time.
Muy bien, y por mi parte, como una de las instituciones organizadoras de este evento, nada más que hacer el cierre. Yo creo que les hemos retenido aquí hasta las 3 de la tarde y yo creo que ya es suficiente. Y no solo hacer la clausura, sino que además hacer el resumen de todo lo que hemos visto, pues me parece pues una labor totalmente complicada. Creo que al menos hemos intentado trasladar una visión multidimensional de lo que puede ser la aproximación a las microcredenciales. No sé si, como decía Nicolás, será un antes y un después, pero yo creo que, bueno, era un punto importante de inflexión, yo creo que para las universidades. Ha habido, yo creo que también una apelación muy clara que nos activemos, y esto yo creo que es una llamada a la activación. Y obviamente, así como pinceladas o ideas clave, podemos decir por una parte que es muy importante cómo nos aproximamos a las microcredenciales, y esa aproximación por parte de las universidades a las microcredenciales pues va a marcar el recorrido que esto va a tener en nuestras instituciones. El papel importante de la estrategia, ¿no? De que haya una estrategia o que esto esté integrado dentro de la estrategia de la universidad. Y Marc claramente nos apelaba al liderazgo institucional en las microcredenciales. Pero también hemos hablado del poder transformacional de las microcredenciales, que creo que no lo podemos subestimar y creo que ha quedado también en evidencia. Creo que nos brindan una visión transversal, lo comentaban tal vez holística, de lo que es el aprendizaje a lo largo de la vida, que ya no se restringe a la etapa postgrado, postmáster, postdoctorado, sino que incluso apela, como bien decía Anastasia, a etapas tempranas de la educación superior, como puede ser la formación profesional media. Y luego también claramente Anastasia nos comentaba la necesidad de tener un marco de referencia, la conexión y las tensiones que hay entre las calificaciones, las cualificaciones o los títulos y las certificaciones hace que sea más necesario que tengamos claro ese marco, y nos lo marcaba claramente que el MECU todavía está en borrador, por lo tanto ahí yo creo que tenemos también que seguir trabajando. Y bueno, se ha hablado también de digitalización. No olvidemos que las microcredenciales también son una palanca muy importante para la transformación digital. Y lo hemos visto a lo largo de la mañana con el ejemplo de la UOC. El ejemplo de la UOC es verdaderamente cómo las microcredenciales pueden transformar una de las actividades fundamentales, como puede ser el espacio de la formación continua. También lo tenemos que ver desde esa perspectiva. Y ya por último, creo que las microcredenciales, y Nicolás creo que nos ha dado un baño de realidad desde la visión de los estudiantes, no el Nicolás, sino que el Nicolás estudiante nos ha traído un poco a tierra de lo que puede ser la visión del estudiante. Ha sido un placer escucharle, la verdad. Y yo creo que si hay algo claro en las microcredenciales es cuando decimos que hay que poner al estudiante en el centro, la propiedad y el protagonismo fundamental en las microcredenciales es del estudiante. Entonces, nunca más evidente que las microcredenciales que ponemos al estudiante en el centro de lo que es el aprendizaje, y no solo en el aprendizaje, sino que en el diseño y la arquitectura de sus itinerarios de aprendizaje. Por mi parte, ese es un poco el resumen que quería hacer de la actividad. Agradecer muchísimo a la organización y en particular a Mitch, que ha sido el alma de la organización de esta semana y de este evento. Y como no, pues a todos los ponentes que habéis participado, moderadores, y también muchísimas gracias a todos los que habéis participado y os habéis trasladado hoy a Barcelona. Muchísimas gracias. Buenas tardes.